This is the Monday Report with Trevor Ombija.
That's absolutely right. Thank you so much for staying with Citizen TV and just in time for the Monday Report. Listen, earlier on today, 6 Iranian nationals pleaded guilty to having a drug haul of methamphetamine, or known as meth, worth 8.2 billion shillings. But is there more culprits behind the curtains? How do you deal with the drug menace in the country? That's why we have our guest in the studio tonight. Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, the CS for Interior and National Administration, will be telling us what is the plan going forward, because we've seen the fight against drug and alcohol abuse entailing a lot of just spilling of the alcohol. But what is the new plan for the government? That's what he'll tell us later on in this broadcast. We'd like to hear from you, Trevor Ombija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Citizen Monday Report. But I'm not alone. Emmanuel Ndungu is here, the iShow speed man, and explaining who he is. What's going on, Emmanuel?
Absolutely, yes, I'm very good. Hope we're all doing well. We have some very important topics to get through today, but we'll still have sports at the end of the bulletin. We're talking about some action in the Rugby Kenya Cup and tensions in the FKF as well. We have plenty to get into there.
Brilliant. That and much more coming up. But first, our top stories tonight.
The flow of the parents is so much. We were not expecting that fast flow, as it were.
A new chapter for the first cohort under CBE. Long queues form as over 1.3 million learners begin their senior school journey.
Niko na mtoto form 4 na atui chochote syllabus ya form 1 ijaisha hadi wa sasa na zaidi mtoto ako form 4. Nitafanya namna gani?
Fury over grade D. Teachers flee for safety as angry parents storm Raganga Secondary School in Kisii over poor KCSE results.
Ukiangalia background yangu, it is very poor. So I had to work hard.
Against all odds, a young man raised by a single mother battling poverty and a bipolar condition defies the limits to score a straight A in KCSE.
We want to say that we totally agree and support the resolution to begin negotiations with the UDA party for the sake of concluding a pre-election agreement for 2027.
Pre-election pact in the works. ODM party resolves to begin early 2027 pre-election talks with President Ruto's UDA party. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Njoki Shege. Let's start off with the latest here. And thousands of parents and grade 10 learners, the first cohort joining senior secondary school under the competency-based education, that is CBE system, thronged schools across the country as the admission exercise officially began. To address some parents' concerns over student placement, the Ministry of Education has yet again extended the period of second review of placements until Friday. Willie Lusige has the details.
After more than a month of waiting, the first group of learners under the CBE system officially reported to grade 10 in senior secondary schools of their choice. Parents accompanied by their children streamed into schools nationwide as admission and registration got underway.
We were here as early as 6, and I'm telling you what, we needed to be here at 1 in the morning. Sema wengine hata hawajalala walikuwa hapa saa 6 ya usiku. So we feel very happy. We are willing to stay here as late as even tutalala pale kwa field.
This is a start of a new era, and we are happy to navigate from the 844 system to the CBE system.
Learners have welcomed the new education system, saying it allows them to choose between sports, science and social sciences pathways in line with their future career goals.
I chose STEM because I want to pursue my career of an electrical engineer, and I know Nairobi School has the perfect facilities for my career.
However, some parents express concerns over placement challenges, including learners being assigned to schools far away from their homes.
There are those boys who are selected or who are placed in girls' school. Now, as parents, we fail to understand whether we are going to buy all the items needed for this boy to report to the girls' school. We have tried to make sure that we change the schools for these students. The system is not working. Only what we receive is a decline.
Head teachers, however, say the new challenges that have emerged are being addressed swiftly, including cases where learners received admission letters from more than one school. Some institutions have also requested an increase in their intake capacity.
So far, tumepokezwa wanafunzi 100 na wameendelea kukuja, but tuko na capacity ya kubeba hata wanafunzi 200.
Grade 10 are on the way to this institution. They form the first bonds of the senior team in the series of CBE.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migoso Gamba, while overseeing the registration exercise at Mumbi Senior Secondary School in Murang'a County, assured parents that the transfer process remains open and that no learner will be left behind among the 1.13 million students nationwide.
There are still some parents who want to change students from their schools, and that window is still there. We'll issue a status report on Friday, and that status report will determine on whether we'll open another window for further admissions. And so we are available to ensure that we navigate that space so that we do not disadvantage any student.
With thousands of parents already having secured places for their senior secondary school students, a number of them are still stranded, demanding that the government does everything to be able to make sure that no student is left behind. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Pangani Girls.
Now, as grade 10 admission continues countrywide, thousands of learners from informal settlements and needy families are stranded due to lack of school fees. Despite their stellar performance in the 2025 Kenya Junior School Education Assessment, the learners are still stuck at home as their parents cannot afford to pay their fees and meet their other basic requirements as the high cost of living continues to bite. Safina Chiengouma highlights their plight.
As his peers reported to various schools for admission to grade 10, for Nicholas Otieno, it was just another day to try his luck at his water business. Under the scorching sun, the 15-year-old pulls his cart across the vast Mukuru Kwanjenga slums in Nairobi, hoping to save enough funds to join Kabungut Boys High School in Bomet, where he was called after getting 58 points in the 2025 Kenya Junior School Education Assessment. Otieno says he hardly makes enough.
Nimechota maji, tuseme mtungi 6, nimepata kitu ka 60. Nimelipa mtu wa mkoko, nipata fenye imebaki nileta nyumbani. Nikununua chakula.
Anashinda akiniambia, "Mama, wacha tu mama. Sasa nimepata 50, nimepea mtu wa mkokoteni 100 yake. Shika inunua mboga."
Otieno is the firstborn son of a single mother of 3 living in these tiny one-roomed corrugated iron shacks in the slums. His mother is also surviving on manual jobs. He aspires to become an engineer and change his family's fortunes.
Mimi sina uwezo. Mtoto wangu alitoa shule, sina mamlaka mali nitampeleka. Sina nguvu mali nitamfikishia. Lakini Mungu aliyejua anitetee.
Mimi na feel vibaya, watu wako shule, mimi niko nyumbani. Watu wamereport. Mimi niko nyumbani hapa bado nang'ang'ana. Hada iwezi.
A similar predicament faces Moses Njiru, who scored 65 points after sitting for his assessment at Mukuru Community Center. The 17-year-old boy is a former street urchin and has been surviving on support from well-wishers. Moses was supposed to report to St. Ignatius Mukubu Boys in Kakamega on Monday, but he has no school fees and other requirements.
Life ya street nimeisikia vizuri sana na siwezi tena jaribu kutamani kurudi kwa street. So, nilikuwa napenda tu niweze kwenda shuleni na niweze kusoma na niweze kutimiza ndoto yangu ya kuwa daktari.
Kwa hivyo kama kunaweza kuwa kuna muhisani ama any scholarship inahitajika, huyu kijana anafaa na kuna leadership skills. Amekuwa president wa MCC primary school for the last 2 years, na hiyo discipline yake ndio imemwezesha hata kuperform vizuri.
In Trans Nzoia County at Japata Village, Ruth Akiru, who was supposed to join her peers at Tartar Girls in West Pokot County, is wallowing in uncertainty. The deplorable state at home shattering her joy of securing a slot to join a national school.
Niling'ang'ana ili nipate future poa, but sasa mama jiwezi na kuna sistangu mkubwa hadi ako shule lakini fee hajamlipia. Sasa ndo mimi nataka mnisaidie. Juu nataka nisome, nipate future poa.
Her mother has been on and off jobs due to a spinal injury. Her efforts to secure scholarship for her daughter have turned into an endless back and forth.
Sasa mara ya mwisho niliambiwa mtoto hata apewa scholarship sababu alisoma West Pokot. Nikajiuliza, mimi mwenyewe ni mzazi wake na naishi Trans Nzoia. Mtoto yangu anaishi, inafaa akae na mimi. Kitambulisho ni yangu. Nitafanya aje ndiye aende West Pokot na mimi ni mama yake, nafaa akae huku. Nikashindwa sasa vile nitafanya.
Amidst the funding quagmire, thousands of learners from needy families across the country are caught up in the conflict between the control of budget and county governors over the withdrawal of billions of shillings for their education. The High Court in June 2025 outlawed the issuance of bursaries by the devolved units on grounds that the mandate does not fall within their jurisdiction, a decision that is now threatening the future of tens of thousands of continuing students and those hoping to join. Safin Acheng Omar, Citizen TV.
Well, we certainly hope that their plight is heard, plus the many others who still require assistance. Now, the release of the KCSE results has once again spotlighted top performers across the country, alongside powerful stories of triumph over adversity. Among them is Shalom Wamboi Mumo, who defied tough home circumstances to score a stellar A plane with 83 points from an extra county school. Raised by a mother battling bipolar disorder and struggling to make ends meet, Shalom remained focused on excellence. Now, he dreams of studying cybersecurity abroad to build a brighter future for himself and his family. Citizen TV's Ben Kirui tells his story.
From a modest single rented room in Dandora's Molem area, Shalom Wambua quietly nurtures both his talent and his dreams. During his leisure time, the soft-spoken student can often be found meticulously putting the final touches on a portrait painting of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, a reflection of his deep love for art and books. That same discipline and passion have shaped his academic journey. In the recently released KCSE results, Mumo delivered a stellar performance, scoring an impressive plain A with 83 points, despite the humble circumstances he comes from. Raised by a single mother battling bipolar disorder and striving to make ends meet through the sale of boiled maize and beans, Mumo says her resilience became his greatest source of motivation, pushing him to work harder and change his family's fortunes.
Ukiangalia background yangu, it is very poor. So I had to work hard I wanted to get a scholarship after Form 4 because I knew my mother wouldn't afford to pay my university school fees.
His mother, Jacqueline Mweni, speaks with pride and emotion as she recounts the difficult journey of ensuring her son stayed in school, from primary education through to secondary school, often against overwhelming odds. She admits she was stunned when the results were released, describing her son's performance as exceptional.
Nilikuwa tunatarajia atafanya vizuri juu nakaa kwa maombi na nishafunuliwa hiyo ndoto na nikamwambia before hata mtihani anze.
I would be in bed at sometimes even at 2 and I was like, I need an A. I will wake up, ningeamka naenda kwenda class kusoma na ni 2. Nikimagine grade nataka.
Despite the demanding nature of her small business and the health challenges she continues to face, Mweni says she never wavered in her commitment to providing for her children's education.
Hakuna faida napatanga, lakini nashukuru Mungu juu tunapatanga chakula na mapato hiyo kidogo tu. Na kijana msupport na kile na msupport na yeye anaendelea na watu wa Equity.
Mumo now helps his mother run the family's kiosk. Even as he sets his sights firmly on the global stage, his ultimate ambition is to secure a scholarship to study cybersecurity at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, a dream he hopes will not only transform his own life, but also uplift his family and community. For the promising Shalom, the stellar performance marks a crucial first step toward transforming conditions back home as he sets his sights on pursuing international studies that he hopes will open doors to broader opportunities and a prosperous career in the future. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, chaos erupted at the Raganga Secondary School in Kitutu Churches South in Kisii County after angry and heartbroken parents stormed the school and locked the principal's office to protest poor performance. The 2025 KCSE results show that the best student scored a D plane while the majority managed a D- and E grades, sparking outrage among the parents and villagers. Crispin Otieno has the details.
As several schools across the country continue to celebrate their stellar performance in the 2025 KCSE examinations, the mood was different at St. Thomas Raganga Secondary School in Kitutu, Chache South. Grief, anger, and disappointment filled the air as parents and local residents carrying twigs marched to the school compound to demand for answers from the school administration over what they termed dismal performance by the school. The school recorded a mean score of just 2.235, with no single student attaining grade for university entry.
Mimi nimepebana na watoto wangu, nimeleta hapa Raganga ili nisaidike. Ili siku ya kesho wanitoe jembe kwa mkono. Na kuwafikisha mali hapa nimepata shida. Shida ni hii, eti watakuja tena kunisaidia jembe. Kama mimi niko na mtoto form 4 na hatui chochote, syllabus ya form 1 ijaisha hadi wa sasa na sasa mtoto ako form 4. Nitafanya namna gani? Nitasaidia huyo mtoto namna gani?
Nilileta watoto wawili. Mwaka jana kijana wangu mkubwa alifanya akapata D plain. Na saa hii mwaka huu msichana alifanya akapata D plain. Nina uchungu kama msasi kwa hii shule. Principal please atoke.
Raganga Secondary School, established in 1992, has struggled with poor KCSE performance for many years. Ironically, the school proudly bears the motto Education for Life, a message that today stands in sharp contrast to the despair written on the faces of parents who feel their children's future has been shattered. The motto is also slowly fading away.
Kama shule mzima inaweza pata a mean score of 2.4, ni kumaanisha hiyo shule hata inafaa ifungwe ama namna gani? Hivyo shule mzima wanafunzi 5 peke yake ndio waliweza kupata alama ya D plain. Wanafunzi wengine karibu sijui ni wangapi walipata D-, wengine wamepata E. Kuna mmoja ambaye aliwacha shule hakufanya mtihani.
As tensions rose, all teachers at the school fled, fearing for their lives. The staff room was left deserted as parents and residents took control of the school compound. In a show of desperation, the protesters locked the principal's office with a padlock, calling on Education Cabinet Secretary Migos Ogamba to intervene and address what they described as a long-standing educational crisis.
This is not a request, it's a command to our Minister of Education. Please, 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 let the principal be sacked as soon as possible. Atoke immediately.
Mwalimu anasema ati tunamletea mtoto mwenye ako na maxi 50. Sasa tuko na listi mtoto ako na maxi 330. Huyu mtoto anastahili kupata E. Hapana.
The parents have, however, vowed to block learning at the school until they receive clear and satisfactory explanations from school management. The school principal, Cyrus Wanyonyi, says the school administration is preparing to hold a meeting with parents to explain the challenges they are currently facing. Crispin Otieno, Citizen TV.
Let's talk about a bit of politics now. In an all-out onslaught against his former deputy Rigathi Gachagua, President William Ruto declared that he is now ready to ring-fence his support in the vote-rich Mount Kenya ahead of the 2027 general election. Ruto, who spent his second day in central Kenya, Gachagua's Nyeri backyard, warned the DCP leader against continued campaign to discredit him in the mountain, reminding Gachagua that he solely marshaled the region to vote for him in 2022, almost to the last man. As Kamau Mwangi now reports, the president exuding confidence that his service delivery record is what shall earn him a second term next year.
In what is promising to be yet another busy political season in the Mount Kenya region, President William Ruto spent the second day in his former deputy's bedrock of Nyeri, launching yet another scathing attack on the man they rode to power together in 2022. While telling off Gachagua over his vigorous campaign to discredit him in central Kenya, the president reminded Gachagua of how he wrestled the mountain from his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta, and that he too was no different.
Unajua kuna majamaa wengine wanazunguka huku, sisi ndio tulibeba Ruto kwa mgongo,
tukalete hapa, sijui nini. Si mimi nilikuwa naibu wa rais wa Uhuru Kenyatta. Si nilikuja hapa mara nyingi. Uhuru Kenyatta akiwa amenituma. Si tukajenga urafiki. Na urafiki hiyo italetwa Kasheshe na mtu mmoja.
And while at Gachagwa's Mathira backyard, the president was more direct.
Yani ati huku ndio Nyeri, huku ndio Karatina, ati huku ndio Mathira, na nyinyi ndio hawa. Watu wa Mathira mnasemaje? Ati Mathira mnasemaje? Ati Mathira mnasemaje? Ati tamu ni ngapi? Ni mbwekse si mbwekse? Ni mbwekse si mbwekse? Mathira hey! Mathira hey!
The Nyeri trip also marking the return of former presidential advisor Moses Kuria back to the Ruto fold months after he resigned from his post.
Hapa mbele watu wanakaa kwa meza. Mimi ni mtu ambaye anasafiri. Watu wa kule kwa Wajaruo wanataka kukaa kwa meza. Waruya wataka kukaa kwa meza. Watu wa Coast watakaa kwa meza. Hiyo meza itakaliwa bila sisi. Hii jeshi ya tutam nitaipanga inyoroke.
Tunakupea tamu ya pili sababu pia sisi tuna ujanja kidogo. Tunajua wale wengine kazi yao ni matusi na kelele. Si kweli, si kweli? Na wanataka watuletee watu ambao wataenda miaka ingine 10. Huyu rais ataenda miaka ingine 5, sisi tujipange hapo. Ndio kana tikuo. Mimi hapana wa 2 term, mimi wa 4 term. Mimi ni wa 4 term. Unalisikia? 4 term. Wacheni siasa duni, wacheni vitimbi, wacheni sarakasi, wacheni propaganda. Hawa wananchi wako na akili. Kila kiongozi akuje hapa atuambie barabara gani amejenga Nyeri, maji gani amepanga Nyeri, stima gani amepanga Nyeri.
The president heads to Samburu County on Tuesday for the launch of the 5th edition of the Nyota program. Kamau Mwangi, Citizen TV, Mathira, Nyeri County.
Stay with politics for a bit. An ODM Central Management Committee has resolved to immediately start pre-election alliance talks with President William Ruto's UDA party ahead of the 2027 general election. At a meeting in Kilifi County, party leader Dr. Oburu Oginga was tasked to initiate the talks, and if successful, a National Delegates Convention, that's an NDC, will ratify the coalition agreement. The meeting was boycotted by Party Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, as Stephen Leto reports.
The Orange Party Central Management Committee held a day-long meeting in the coastal county of Kilifi, chaired by party leader Dr. Oburu Oginga. The committee resolved to immediately begin intense pre-election negotiations with other political formations, starting with President William Ruto's UDA, aiming to ink a grand coalition agreement.
The committee meeting expressed the intention to initiate structured negotiations with different political formations, beginning with the United Democratic Alliance.
Meeting tasked party leader Dr. Oburu Oginga to immediately start talks on behalf of the party. The negotiations will run alongside people consultative rallies starting Wednesday at Kibra's Kamukunji grounds. If the ODM-UDA talks succeed, a National Delegates Convention will be convened to ratify the agreement.
Concurrently, consultations with party members will proceed, culminating in the National Delegates Convention.
In Nairobi, ODM members of parliament quickly convened to back the Kilifi Declaration, urging the party leader to move swiftly and secure a coalition partner on a give-and-take basis.
We want to say that we totally agree and support the resolution to begin negotiations with the UDA party for the sake of concluding a pre-election agreement for 2027.
I want to thank our party leader, Oburu Odinga, and the whole team in the Central Committee for now giving us our way forward as a party that indeed we will respect. And Baba used to say, even if you don't like the decision, it has been done by an organ of the party.
Chama inaenda kutumia structures kuengage chama ya UDA, ODM inaenda kuengage chama ya UDA kwa kukuwa na mazungumzo wakiangalia vile tutatengeneza serikali sisi wote 2027.
We are going to go as per the resolution of the Central Committee and negotiate with sitting government, because we will be part and parcel of the next government.
Party Secretary General Edwin Sifuna came under fire for skipping the Kilifi Central Committee meeting, sparking criticism from some members of the party who said his absence undermines party unity and discipline.
Na wale wajaridhika ama wapendi ya mapendekezo, ni vyema pia vizuri waambiwe ukweli wakati huu, wajiondoe. Gari letu limeondoka.
So I know Secretary General Sifuna was not in Mombasa, I've seen. But I want to request him, we are the ones who put you there. Please follow the party line.
What we call for is a resolution or an agreement, a pre-election pact that respects the wishes of the supporters of ODM nationwide.
Beyond the pre-election talks, the management committee resolved to activate the party's grassroots network ahead of the 2027 general election. The party also plans to identify popular candidates for all elective seats to secure a majority in both parliament and county assemblies. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
So the 50 million Chicken Gate bribery scandal came back to haunt former IEBC chairman Ahmed Issa Hassan during his interview by the Judicial Service Commission for Judge of the Court of Appeal. The IPOA chairman defending his track record while at the helm of the electoral watchdog by stating that he was not implicated in the dealings that had some officials prosecuted. Hassan was interviewed among other candidates interviewed on the day one, as well as High Court judges Maronga Angima, Oscar Angote, as Seth Olale now reports.
IPOA chairman Ahmed Issa Hassan defended his track record at the helm of interim Independent Electoral Commission between 2011 and 2017 electioneering period by distancing himself from any involvement in the 50 million Chicken Gate bribery scandal. The ghost of the bribery scandal implicating members of the Interim Independent Electoral Commission as adverse memoranda to GSC by petitioners Issa Hassan is not new too.
Nothing came up of those allegations. The DPP came and said we have no evidence, and the corruption said the same thing. Auditor General said the same thing. So why our own Anti-Corruption Commission took all that information from UK and have it here. After studying it is when they decided to charge people. So why are we overlooking our own institution, what they have said, what they have done?
The IPOA chairman was also put to task to clarify whether he was investigated by authorities.
And this case is going on. There are 24 prosecution witnesses. I have given my evidence. I think the investigator from UK is the one who is being waited for to give evidence. He was requesting to give it on video, while the defense counsel wanted him to come in person. So this is going on, but for me, I've given my evidence in court. I was cross-examined by all the lawyers for the defense counsels.
Other than Issa Hassan, Justices Maronga Angima and Oscar Angote, alongside Protas Gadege and Professor Miga Akech, were interviewed by GSC for the available 15 positions of Judges of Court of Appeal.
Is there corruption in some segments of the judiciary? Perhaps that is the case. As they say, where there is smoke, there is likely to be fire, right? And so those are things that we cannot ignore.
The interviews continue on Tuesday. The successful applicants are expected to report to their various working stations by April 2026. The Judicial Service Commission says the ongoing interviews are part of its constitutional mandate to guarantee justice to the citizens. Seth Olale, Citizen TV at the Supreme Court of Kenya, Nairobi County.
All right, we're about to take a quick break here on the Monday Report. When we come back, there's an update, by the way, on the story that was done by Safina Chieng'o on the students who are stranded at home. One, Nicholas Otieno from Ukuru kwa Njenga, and Moses Njiru from Ukuru kwa Njenga as well, and Ruth Akiru, who's meant to join Tartar Girls. I've just gotten a confirmation from His Excellency Johnson Sakaja, Nairobi Governor, saying that he will sponsor all the 3 students through the Sakaja Foundation, and they should meet him in City Hall tomorrow. So if you're still out there listening, this is a good call from the governor, saying that he will sponsor Nicholas Otieno, Moses Njiru, Rita Kiru, and they should report to City Hall tomorrow through the Sakaja Foundation. We'll make sure they get to school. Special thanks to the governor for that. And now, coming up right after this break, we'll be having a conversation with Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration. You can see him already there at the VIP. We are speaking about the war on alcohol and drug abuse, and we know now that there are 6 Iranians who have pleaded guilty to having a methamphetamine or meth worth 8.2 billion shillings. But are they the only culprits, or are there more behind the curtains? And what is the new strategy of dealing with drug and alcohol abuse in the country going forward? Send in your questions at Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. We'll see you in just a bit. The war on alcohol and drug abuse. What is the government's plan? Tonight we speak with Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen. Thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Let's start with a quick update here. 6 Iranians have pleaded guilty in the 8.2 billion methamphetamine haul case. The 6, Jassim Dardahesh Nia, Nadim Judgal, Hassan Baloch, Rahim Baksh, Imran Baloch, and Imtiaz Darye, admitted to trafficking 1,036 kilograms of meth before Chief Magistrate Anthony Mwishigi at the Chanzu Law Courts. The offense was committed between October 17th and 20th, 2025. The suspects now will be held at the Shimolatewa prison pending sentencing. And to further continue this conversation is Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, the CS for Interior and National Administration, joining us here in studio. Thank you for making time, Waziri.
Thank you very much, Trevor.
On the 7th of January, that was about last week, President William Ruto gave your ministry and the Office of the Attorney General 10 days to come up with a new legal framework aimed at disrupting the drug trafficking networks in Kenya. First of all, how far is that?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, Trevor. And while I was seated here in your earlier bulletin, I saw that, this is a season where we are discussing young people. We are discussing also mechanisms of making sure that we cut the supply of drugs and alcohol by ensuring that as many of our children are in school as possible. And I've seen that on a number of those kids, some of them you covered today. Now that I'm here, I know we have so many other Kenyans who have not even been covered. With your permission, if I may also sponsor one of the students and perhaps take the young girl called Ruth Akiru. I'm told that she's going to Tartar Girls, very good school. I really want to, with your permission and the permission of the family, offer support to sponsor the girl.
By all means, we appreciate on our behalf.
And then, first, before we go even to the legal reform, let me just contextualize first that we have a crisis of alcohol and drug addiction in the country. And this crisis is really manifested in the statistics that were established after a research done by NACADA, which established that 1.3 million Kenyans, actually like 5 million Kenyans, 4.9 million Kenyans are addicted to one substance or the other. And that with clarity that about 1.3 million Kenyans are fully addicted to alcohol. And then you have about 300,000 people who are actually addicted to cannabis. The abuse of alcohol in Kenya is about 3.3 million people are abusing alcohol. and then the other drugs and substance are abused by almost 2 million Kenyans. That makes it about 5 million. And the point I'm making here is that this is a crisis that is not just about government, it's about society. And we are confronting this challenge. In the past, we have attempted mechanisms that included, going around pouring out alcohol and, these very juakali methods of dealing with it. The president, having seen our report last year, and remember during the launch of Jukwaa la Usalama report, I went to all the 47 counties and did 48 meetings, which were included 2 meetings in Mandera, Mandera and Elwak. And out of all that, there is no part of Kenya that we did not find drugs and alcohol abuse. Number two, I need to contextualize by saying that the threats, the top serious threats to national security are terrorism, banditry, alcohol and drug abuse. But of the three, the most widespread challenge we have in the country is the alcohol and drug abuse, because it's in every part of the country. When you talk about the threat of terrorism, it is sometimes confined heavily in some parts of the country. Banditry is also confined to a few counties in the country, but there is no, and I can say there without fear of contradiction, there is no family that does not have at least a non-relative, in fact, in the nuclear family, who is addicted to alcohol or drugs. And the biggest challenge we are dealing with here is that a young population, the study shows that 1 in every 8 students in the university has abused or used a drug in one way or another, or abused alcohol. So when we say it's a national crisis, it calls upon all of us to come together. And that's why in the measures that the president proposed, the first measure was to strengthen the anti-narcotic unit. Basically, at the moment, we have a very lean unit that has about 192 officers. It doesn't have enough resources, doesn't have vehicles, doesn't have office, doesn't have the resources for testing and surveillance. And the president has, pursuant to his direction, again, when he had a meeting a week ago, he gave directions to the Treasury that provide resources to strengthen this team by increasing it by another 500 officers, well-trained, to carry out intelligence-led operations on matters of drugs. Number two was to look at the legal framework, which you've talked about, is to revise the legal framework, and the proposals that are already on the table is to enhance the age of drinking, the minimum age of drinking from 18 to 21. It is also to ban online sales of alcohol. By the way, that is an area where there is a big crisis. Many parents do not realize that most of those things that their children are ordering, in fact, ordering alcohol online from shops that are sold online, makes it possible for underage to receive alcohol, because it's being ordered and delivered in their houses, and there is no way on mechanism of monitoring. It is also to ensure that prohibit advertisement of alcohol for a certain period of time, to create alcohol-free zones, including around schools and public parks. There is a big problem of licensing. At the moment, we are struggling with licensing. If you look at some places, county government licenses are offered. You will find a small center. Like we have a small center in my home there in the part of Trans Nzoia called Kachibora. You have a very small center, and it has about, you're told about, liquors, selling shops, about 10 in a very small center. In some centers, we have even about 300. And so the point is to make sure that we have now stricter legal framework in terms of licensing.
But
in terms of punishment,
the problem is
in terms of punishment,
it's not a legal issue. It's more of a shortfall and a self-defeating corrupt system that exists.
Definitely.
Anybody can access alcohol through the cracks. The officers, who are some of them under your ministry, are corrupt.
First, let me start by saying the first part of dealing with this societal problem of drugs and alcohol abuse starts with the family. When the family unit becomes dysfunctional, the children are not being monitored. we have a problem of monitoring because of the pressure that current parenting, when parents go through. Many children are always online. Many parents are struggling to feed their families and leave their children to be sometimes brought up by school or technology and so forth. So there's a parenting problem first. There's a society problem. Number two, some of us who grew up in the village knew that you grew up, you are a child of the society. The society brought you up. You know, if your parent does, and if a neighbor finds you doing the wrong thing, they beat you, you know, they discipline you and so forth. Now we have a more individualistic society where nobody touches the child in school, nobody bothers to discipline the child. At home, nobody is disciplining the child. You even have cases where the children are actually parenting their parents in a sense that they are parents on their own. So first of all, we must deal with the family unit because that's where the problem starts with. Okay. Then you move now to the rest of the society. The first part of it is the licensing. Those people profiting from this kind of business, stocking of these goods. Why would you allow in the next center people are stocking poison? You have the people who are packaging also ethanol and selling to people. So there's a problem, a moral problem in the society. Yeah. But if you go also to the enforcement, you will find that, and I have to say this over and over again, even during Jukwaa, that you will never see a place where there's a prevalence of alcohol without the complacency and the sometimes cooperation and support of the OCS of that area, the police officers of those that area. First of all, you need to know that there is a crisis in public service. About 160,000 public servants are addicted to alcohol. So in the first place, the people who are expected to help us deal with alcohol are themselves addicted. You remember in one of the Jukwaa la Usalama sessions in, that was Migori, one of the police officers came here drunk, completely drunk, yeah, completely. And when I asked the stories, that he has been like that for some time. So we have a challenge of, first of all, even the people you're expecting to run this issue are facing the same crisis. The second issue is to say that corruption is really, at the heart of this problem is corruption. Yeah, where there is a collusion between the chief and the OCS and the police, they facilitate processes of ensuring they protect the brewers. Sometimes when there is this nationally led crackdown in particular area, for example, when we were in Jukwaa la Usalama in Trans Nzoia, in Kitale, there was an operation that was undertaken that evening because we were with DIG Masengeli and then Akada CEO Moriko and the others. And they did an operation an evening before the Jukwaa. And some of the people who were arrested were saying, how did this happen? Did the local police officer know? Did the person in charge of police here know? Because they know that these are people already compromised to provide protection. In places where alcohol is sold, definitely corruption is the biggest enabler. And that's why, that is true. And that's why in the proposal from the president was that we must have a command center at the national level that brings together the security chiefs, the intelligence, the police, the drugs issues, even KDF because of border security, and the asset recovery unit and so forth, so that together we can come together and do an intelligence-led operation where the intelligence is collected. This special team that is being established with the anti-narcotics unit, working under the leadership of NACADA, will now carry out crackdowns and focus on the big boys, because without the supply side, without the people who are manufacturing or packaging this kind of alcohol, or the people who are actually selling and transporting, it will not be, without them, the alcohol will not be delivered. So the focus will be like this. Why this is different is that it will borrow, and you heard the president speak about it, borrowing from our anti-terrorism efforts or strategies, and also borrowing from the recent strategies we have been applying in the banditry-prone areas, where instead of just going around and the chiefs are pouring alcohol and so forth, that will continue in a smaller scale. But this operation that the president has announced is going to be different. It's going to be intelligence-led. We will particularly target the big boys. That way, because they go to the local area and corrupt the local security agencies, this team that comes now from far, and which shall have been vetted and have certain layers of oversight, the same way that we have now with anti-terror strategies, we'll be applying it in the alcohol, because there is no point for us to pretend here that we are fighting crimes like banditry, which kills less people than alcohol and drugs. And so it's important that those strategies that are being applied dealing with banditry and also terror be applied in the fight against the drugs.
But Waziri, there are no guarantees that that system will not be corrupt either, the special squad that will be established. Because we saw just last week, 8 KDF officers, though that's not directly under your ministry, but it's in the security system still, they were arraigned in court for being part of the team that smuggled part of the meth that had already been gotten and been gotten through the hall. So it means even this new squad will still just be compromised, because it's the same people you want to rely on. So how will this be different?
Isn't the fact that 8 KDF officers were arraigned in court good news? Isn't that a story of success? That no matter your position, you will be arrested, you will be found, you will be charged in a court of law. I believe that that is part of the stories that we celebrate, that despite the fact that there were officers who are expected to abide by a certain level of integrity, when they breached their code of conduct and they broke the law, I am very happy that there is a system in Kenya that can net those people and take them to court. So that is success, and that will be the case. The fact is this, that because we are saying this intelligence-led strategy, this will avert even, we will be able to arrest certain situations even before it happens, because you collect the intelligence early, and because there is a team that can be deployed, resourced, and capable of reaching any part of this country, they will be able to do stink operations and arrest the persons who are involved. And then, because of the multi-agency approach to this, we are combining forces with the financial recovery strategies center. We're also dealing with asset recovery agency, so that now what we are going to do is this: we get you a lorry transporting illicit alcohol. We don't just take the goods, we also confiscate and seize the lorry, and then in the proposed law, these lorries will be sold, or these assets will be sold. If we find you brewing Chang'ai in a particular land, that land is declared proceeds of crime, and then the land will be seized, it will be sold, and the resources that come from it will be used on rehabilitation exercises. So it is important for us to realize that this multi-agency approach will bring all these players under one roof, and they will agree. When we go for a particular notorious ethanol or adulterated alcohol, we will go for him in terms of arrest by the police. The KRA will come for the taxes. The asset recovery agency will come for the assets to recover. We must make it painful and punitive for that person to function.
But will that deter the big fish? So
definitely.
Because even these Iranians, do you believe that they are the ones who own this meth worth 8.2 billion, or are there people behind them?
Before even we come to the 6 Iranians, let me say this, that the big fish can only feel the pain of loss of revenue, because what is driving them is a primitive accumulation of wealth, that they want to profit and benefit from blood money by destroying the lives of young and old people across the country.
Why
and
not
so
go for them?
the way that's what I'm saying. You go for them, you arrest them, but you go for their assets. If you go for them alone, you know what the courts have been doing? You arrest a particular, there is a notorious one in Eldoret, I don't want to mention his name, Eldoret and his environment. He operates all the way to Trans Nzoia, Elgeyo Marakwet, and is distributing, I think he comes from my county actually, based on the intelligence report. He is very notorious in transporting ethanol around North Rift up to Nandi and all those places. And definitely the security agencies are going to go for him and his persons. But every time he's been arrested, why people know, he's arrested, he's charged in court, the court fined him 1 million. But the profit he gets maybe in a week is 10 million. So what is 1 million to him? It is okay, you arrest, you take them to court, the fine is 1 million, he goes home, he continues with his business. Now, the new strategy is to make sure that that is painful by seizing that the goods, by seizing their property, by declaring all their resources that they have made, money they have made, to be proceeds of crime. That becomes punitive and painful. The other strategy that we will you had asked about the Iranians, whether they are the ones to blame. First of all, we believe
the owners of
first, it's good news that they have. It's good news that they have admitted that they are guilty. Of course, the rest of the legal process will go on. This is transnational crime. We are getting cooperation from partners from the region and beyond internationally. Remember, this was not just an operation that was done by the people of Kenya. It was based on intelligence from the other partners globally, including Interpol. And so as we continue with the investigation, looking at the source of money and profiling all these people, eventually I'm sure that the big boys will be established where they are. Sometimes you'll find that these countries that are at war or, drug lords, there's countries that are invested with a lot of drug lords are the ones that are controlling these drugs. But also, I was trying to tell you that the other strategy is to make sure that we deal with our porous border. I should read for you the statistics here. The illicit alcohol is extremely prevalent in the western part of the country. We have a challenge. Number one is now Kakamega. It used to be Trans Nzoia, followed by Trans Nzoia, and then Kisumu. And all the western counties are among the top counties in terms of prevalence. Nairobi is actually number 5, and so forth. The reason why it is prevalent in that is because of our porous border. There are a number of border points that are unmanned, and they are porous. And part of the strategy that the president has directed is that we establish more vehicle checkpoints across, which are multi-agency, equipped with proper equipment, including drones, that they can monitor those areas. So you will see us soon, a place like West Pokot, a place called Konyao, and its environment, you will see a new checkpoint that will ensure that the porous borders are dealt with. Some places also in Narok, Olposmoru, for example, and its environment is a porous point. Some places in northeastern, some of the places also in Taita Taveta. So the point is to increase the number of manned points where they have other porous points, and also multi-agency with layers of intelligence and various stages of reporting that can make sure that there is accountability in terms of the team that are working together.
The President spoke about the death penalty, which is unconstitutional. It's not implied in the strict sense of it. So what arrangements in terms of legal policy adjustments do you want to make to achieve that? What does that look like? What did he mean by the death penalty?
Well, I think death penalty, of course, has been declared by the courts to be unconstitutional. But the president was expressing when the president speaks, he sometimes speaks like a father, who has children, but also the father of the nation. So he was, figuratively speaking, in a manner of speech, the president was ached by the challenge and the problems that we have. A number of young people are dying of alcohol addiction, some of them in abuse of cocaine and heroin, and among others. And these are people we know. They are our neighbors, our friends, the children of our friends. And so because of that, the president himself wanted to give an expression of the extreme we are willing to go as a nation. But of course, it's upon us as policy, from a policy perspective, to reduce it to what can be implemented. And in this sense, when we sat down and engaged His Excellency the President, he was okay with us enhancing the number of drugs that attract life sentence. So eventually it will be life sentence. And some of those drugs that were not incorporated are these ones that are manufactured, like the meths and among others. A number of them that are now increasing, synthetic drugs and so forth, that are increasingly being used by young people and very destructive to their lives. We need to increase them to the fold, together with heroin and cocaine and other lethal drugs that will attract life sentence.
There's a political angle to this as well. The former deputy president actually recently said that the war against alcohol in the Mount Kenya region faded away with his exit. But he also accused members of the cabinet, saying that there are 2 known drug barons in the cabinet. Do you know them, first of all? Your cabinet.
First, let me start by saying that the first part of the statement is very unfortunate, because the deputy president of Kenya does not fight drugs in his village or in his region.
You mean the former deputy?
Yeah, when you are a deputy president, even Professor Kindiki, even the president, even me as a cabinet secretary, I can't come here and talk about drugs in Elgeyo Marakwet, drugs in Eldoret, drugs in Rift Valley. As a cabinet secretary, my concern is to fight drugs and alcohol and everything that is wrong in the country, wherever it is and wherever it may be. Mombasa used to be a very notorious area for many years, the leading. But now the figures have gone down because of the efforts that government has put in place over time. And not just this administration, from the last administration. Those efforts are borne fruits because there was targeted, focused. I was with President Uhuru, for example, when we went to ban that ship that was carrying drugs, when he went to bomb that ship in Mombasa, in the high seas. So the point is that the first unfortunate thing about the former deputy president is his obsession with tribalism when it comes to fight against anything, whether it is education, whether it is alcohol, whether he sees everything from the prisms of his own personal, parochial, tribal angle. So that alone, the premise of that conversation is in the first place wrong. Number two, when he was in office, his record is known. It's very clear. And I'm willing to swear an affidavit. Everything he did was to extort money from potential, these companies that are selling alcohol. For you to get licensed, you have to see me. For you to do this, you have to see me. So I don't think that the principle is that if you come to Equity, we must come with clean hands. He is very notorious in engaging in acts of extortionism.
But you have not.
Number three,
it's not even been reported anywhere. In fact, you're in the Ministry of Interior.
I'll come to that. Number three is that you had a scheme that was called a rehabilitation scheme. That was absolutely, you cannot show one rehabilitation center he engaged in or supported, except you see money being expended, but you don't see the people being rehabilitated. So I think that when it comes to the discussion on drugs and alcohol abuse, the last person to give us a lecture is the former deputy president, because his record is known to be dismal. I hasten to say I don't want to be like him and reveal things that used to happen when we were in cabinet and meetings.
You already started, but
I'm just saying, no, these are not cabinet related. I'm just saying in his office. The worst part of the former deputy president is that I had never seen a more incompetent public servant who understood no single subject in government operations or government policy. The reason why you see the former deputy president ranting all the time is because he's covering his incompetence. He cannot, and I dare you, I want you to invite Gachagua here and I come with him. Let us debate anything about our policy in this country, on anything, including alcohol, including coffee, including tea, including education. That man understands absolutely nothing. And I can see the people of Kenya to the face and tell them that I have worked with this man so closely, and it is his record in terms of understanding public policy is very dismal. So it cannot be a point of reference. That is why I cannot take him seriously when he discusses other people by saying that, a cabinet secretary is selling drugs and so forth.
You said there are two drug barons in the cabinet.
There was a clear process of vetting of all public servants, including all of us who came to cabinet. If we had an iota of that, if any of them had even an iota of that allegation proven, of course, they would never have held public office. So these are just political gimmicks out there. Let me tell you this. We are fighting drugs and alcohol abuse in the Republic of Kenya, including every part of Kenya. Today, you saw a number of dens in Murang'a were destroyed, despite the fact that Murang'a ranks almost number 30. It's among the fairly well-doing counties in terms of fight against the drugs. Nyeri is among 20-something counties across the country. But you see that the fight is going on in every part of Kenya. In fact, the focus now as a nation is to focus on the top counties and the poorest points that are letting in these drugs and alcohol abuse.
What is the best strategy in your view? Dealing with the supply side of things or the demand side of drugs?
I think that we must have a multi-pronged approach, but start the most urgent issue is the supply side immediately. You must. Why we are doing this rapid response is to make sure that we deal with the supply side very urgently. And the reason why
they say it's only influential people actually.
Absolutely.
At the top of
yes, exactly. We need to first go for the most influential people. The people who are brewing, the people who are importing, the people who are transporting, these top beneficiaries. That way, you will first cut the supply down. The other part is to deal with the porous borders. Make sure that, because you know, these are transnational crime. It comes together with guns, bullets, and trafficking in persons. So all of them, these transnational crimes go together with the drugs itself. Some of the serious porous borders is the parts of Moyale, for example, and you know the operations that we are doing in that side of Moyale has netted a number of cocaine and cannabis, which is transported from neighboring countries. As I told you, in the western part of the country, there is a lot of porous borders around that place, and there are also some parts of northeastern, parts of coast region. All these areas we must deal with. By the way, there is also a very interesting phenomenon. You know that in the last 1 year, we enhanced our crackdown against banditry, especially in many parts of Kerio Valley. There are still some parts we are dealing with. Something shocking, because in a very short time, in less than 6 months, we were able to collect over 1,100 guns. But what is shocking is that when we got peace along the Kerio River, we established that the bandits, apart from carrying out acts of banditry and creating safe zones for themselves, during that period of enhanced activities of banditry, they were planting cannabis along Kerio River. So there is a lot of cannabis along the Kerio River in both Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, West Pokot, Turkana, that now we are uprooting and dealing with in those areas. And I believe that the strategies that we applied to banditry, being applied in this fight against drugs and alcohol abuse, will definitely bear fruits. And this is a fight that we must wage together jointly with the support of everybody so that we can be able to succeed.
Another plan was the establishment of 47 rehabilitation centers in the 47 counties.
Yes.
How far is that? And how do you want to establish new rehabilitation centers while the ones that exist are barely functional? We
actually don't have proper rehabilitation centers. In fact, something closer to government rehabilitation center is in Miritini, in Mombasa, and a few other places, smaller rehab centers in every county. Pursuant to the directive of the president, I wrote a letter to all governors to request them to provide land where they already have a rehabilitation center or where they planned to establish a rehabilitation center for purpose of the national government to be able to help in the ecosystem of housing. It is possible for the national government, as we construct this housing where they have schools. You see the housing concept with schools, nearby hospital, markets, and so forth. The president is engaging the stakeholders, including in the housing sector, to see if rehabilitation center will be part and parcel of that, and therefore construct a model rehabilitation center for every county to start with. Interestingly, from the letter I wrote to the county government, some counties have written to say, can you make it 2? Because then it means that the need is there. Mark you, Trevor, we have as I told you earlier, 1.3 million addicts of alcohol. You know, the existing commercial run rehabilitation center can not be able to deal with it. The president also directed that we create proper rehabs within the referral hospitals. Currently, one of the rehabs I know is the one for Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, and it has done a fantastic job, but it's too small for it to resolve the problems of rehabilitation across the country. And as we deal with the crackdown, as we make sure that we do the crackdown, the addicts will having lacked the supply.
Yeah.
You know, what that means is that they will then have withdrawal symptoms, and those withdrawal symptoms are dangerous. They can lead to loss of life. So the most important thing is that as we do the crackdown, you also provide rehabilitation, and that's why it's urgent for the referral hospitals across the country to be on standby as we continue with the crackdown, provide facilities for treating these persons, and then subsequently it should be followed by rehabilitation. And even as we build these rehabilitation centers, the ones existing in the public and the private sector ones, should be able to help. Unfortunately, the private sector run rehab centers are very, very expensive. If the government one is expensive, because I know the high cost that, for example, the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, and it's still affordable because it's a public hospital. But now the private ones are extremely expensive for ordinary Kenyans who want to get treatment from addiction.
Okay, let me read out some of the feedback for you here. I'll read quite a number of them so that you can react to them. Paul here says, if Murkomen is sincere, let him kill police protection rackets first. No changade nor bang peddler survives without police cover. Target the officers, not the addicts. Another one here from Uma Neko says, Nakada alone can't win this war. We need independent civilian reporting, anonymous reporting channels with cash rewards. Okay, anonymous reporting with cash rewards. If a cop is exposed and convicted, the whistleblower gets paid. So there's cash rewards, there's dealing with the police at their level. And then there's also another one here who says alcohol and drug abuse is not a mystery. It thrives in poverty, corruption, easy access, and political hypocrisy. Fix those four things ruthlessly and abuse collapses. Anything else is just noise. Another one, Priska, says, good evening, Trevor, and I truly appreciate your support towards supporting Ruth and grade 10 student from Trans Nzoia. That is appreciating you, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, for the support for the student. You said you deal with Ruth Akiru, who's meant to join Tartar. Another one here, George Njoroge, says, ask Kipchumba Murkomen to start with every police station. 30 to 40% of his officers are suffering the same thing, and it's extremely serious. Walk into any police station and you'll see for yourself the crisis there. And Dr. Hafit Gargar says, lovable irony. Our super CS Kipchumba Murkomen justifies that senior leaders drink alcohol, yet claims he's fighting it. Leadership begins with leaving the message, not explaining it. Now you can react.
Yeah, that's true. First of all, I agree entirely that some of our security officers and some of our administration officers and some of the public officers, including in senior offices like the ones we had in the past in occupying as high officers as the Deputy President's office, are part of the impediment to the fight. You know, they look at the financial gain, the things they are going to benefit from. So it's not a war. Why the president has lifted the conversation to this level is because the crisis is real. Number two, the addicts, you must look at addicts differently. And unfortunately, I used to get angry when I see a relative is addicted and so forth, until some doctors told us that when someone has become an addict, that's a patient. It's no longer, you don't start, it's now a disease. You don't blame them. You don't blame them for being addicted. You try to look for solution for them. So we have a number of police officers who are addicts. And as you know, we have moved a number of them to rehabilitation centers. And I agree with those who are saying that in a number of police stations, you'll find an addict police officer. And some have gone through the process and recovered successfully. But you need to know that the addiction is not at the level of police only. As I told you, about 160,000 public servants are addicted to alcohol. That includes people in high offices, politicians, members of parliament, MCAs, people in very high offices, by the way, CEOs of companies. If you go to some of the rehabs, of course, these are confidential information, you will see people who have become strong and accepted their situation, lawyers, engineers, doctors who have been addicted before, who have sought help, and those are the courageous ones. But there are many people we lose in families who die, senior professionals who have been addicted to alcohol or drugs. So this is not a problem of just the poor. It is wrong to just level it as a problem of the poor. It's also a problem of the rich. In fact, the sellers of the manufactured drugs and the cocaine and the heroin and so forth, the ones who have the networks of supply, they target children from well-to-do families. That's why they target colleges and schools, because they know that once they create dependency on these children who come from well-to-do families, then they have a constant supply of resources that will enable these people to steal from their parents and continue that addiction, and therefore market is existing. That's why it's an evil strategy. It is targeting kids at the high school, university, and the college level, and then they know that when they go to the marketplace, they will have consistency in terms of application of this issue. So I agree that why we are having this conversation, so the problem is existing, and why are we coming out this way is to say the strategies we have applied in the past may have worked, but to a certain level. It is now time to upscale this fight to the level of a national security problem that needs to be confronted from the top. Yeah. But we will never succeed. I see some people saying, oh yeah, give incentive for people who give the information. Trevor, let me tell you this. It is not for lack of information that this scourge is not being fought. It's not for the lack of information. The information is there. Kenyans are giving information. But as you've said, rightly said, some of this information or some of these plans are lost in the middle because of corruption. You know, the officer who's being given the information is the one giving protection to the drug peddler, or giving information on uncover and protection to the illicit alcohol seller. Yeah. That is why this National Command Center will make sure that provide oversight where those officers are going to be removed from office. For an officer to allow ethanol, for example, to cross the border, and is a KRA officer, there is a problem somewhere. Yeah. There is a problem with the person of immigration. There is a problem with the person of police, and so forth and so forth. So the point I'm saying is that as we fight this alcohol, one of the biggest challenges is to deal with the corruption itself. Okay. And therefore, you will be seeing most of these officers either sacked. Sometimes you have the intelligence report that this is the person who has done it, but you don't have hard evidence to take to court. Okay. And so we take disciplinary action based on the failure or acts of omission in the areas that you have been asked to man.
All right, Waziri, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for making it.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to tell Kenyans that we will not succeed on our own. We request every citizen of this republic to play a role in the education. I wonder, Trevor, just as a closing remark, why we are so preoccupied, all of us, including church leaders, discussing politics and politicians and who will win elections, who will be 1 term, 2 term, 3 term. And when issues like this come out, we do not take them seriously and address it in our churches. Yet, our pastors are addicted. We have a number of priests who are addicted. They are in rehabilitation centers and so forth. This is a crisis that requires collective fight. And I want to request Kenyans that let's put our politics aside. Let's put our political sides aside. Let's avoid seeking cheap political points from this very important national exercise that we need to fight together, and let us rally together and save our children and save our country from this scourge.
All right, Waziri, thank you so much. And special thanks for agreeing to support Ruth Akiru, who is supposed to join Tartar Girls. We'll follow up with that and make sure that they get to school. Nicholas Otieno, Moses Njiru, you'll be supported by Johnson Sakaja Foundation. The governor for Nairobi says you go there tomorrow. Guru Raval Devki has also sent in his view, saying that he will support the children who are unable to join school. So we appreciate that very, very deeply here on Citizen TV. We're taking a quick break. When we come back, there's still a lot more coming up in just a bit. That has been our conversation with Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, the CS for Interior and National Administration, specifically on just war on alcohol and drug abuse. All right? See you in a bit. Oh, thank you so much for staying with Citizen TV's Monday Report. So the Law Society of Kenya has vowed to challenge a High Court decision there that was earlier on issued in Nakuru, barring public entities from hiring private legal practitioners. In a statement on Monday, LSK President Faith Odhiambo said that conservatory orders deprives advocates nationwide of the opportunity to serve the public and is against the economic rights. The orders arose from a petition filed by Nakuru-based surgeon Dr. Magare Gikenyi, Senator Okiya Omtata Okoiti, and others against the Council of Governors, the Attorney General, and more than 70 public entities. Court directed the Control of Budget not to approve any public funds for external legal services, including payments to private advocates and law firms, until the matter is heard. Now, the order has also been rejected by Council of Governors, who termed it unfair. The respondents in the matter are to be served within 3 days and will file their responses within 7 days. An inter-party hearing has been scheduled for January 30th, 2026. Also, police in Kericho County are investigating 2 fire incidents that rocked different villages on Sunday night. In Poiwek, a 42-year-old woman and her 80-year-old daughter died in the blaze. In Gecherok, a family loses millions after fire destroys their 7-room house and 2 vehicles.
In Poiwek village, Kericho County, the family of Patrick Kiprotich is mourning after his sister Jacqueline Cheriot and her 8-year-old daughter perished in a fire incident. The deceased was serving as an education officer in Chemosot Ward Bureti, well known to many locals here.
Marehemu alikuwa na watoto watatu, ndio akaweza kuteketea na mmoja. Wale wamepaki pia wanahitaji msaada.
Tulifika tukajaribu kufungua mlango yake. Tulimuita madam akasema niko hapa. Tukajaribu kufungua mlango ikafunguka. Kuingia ndani kuna kaa ambayo ililipuka. Tukatoka nje sisi wote tukakimbia.
Meanwhile, in Gecherok village, another family, that of Miliot Kerich, is counting losses estimated at 5 million shillings after their property and 2 vehicles were reduced to ashes.
Kufika nikapata moto imeshika nyumba, imeshika gari ambazo nasiona hapo 2, imechoma kila kitu, tanki ndio hizi.
Watoto wako shule, vitabu imechomeka, kila kitu imechomeka.
A surge of fire incidents in the area this month has alarmed residents, raising serious safety concerns.
Imekuwa tukio ambayo imeripotiwa mara mingi. Nafikiri kufikia sasa visa vingi vimeweza kuonekana vya moto. So tunaomba serikali pia iangalie hapo.
According to Kericho County Police Commander James Ngetich, detectives are conducting thorough investigations to establish the cause of the fires.
Kitu ningependa tu kuwasihi wananchi ni kwamba wawe waangalifu. Hizi vyombo vya stima ningependa pia wahakikishe kwamba ziko salama.
Maria Nyambura, Citizen TV.
Time now for some business news. And listed agricultural firm Sassini has posted net earnings of 188 million shillings for the full year ending September 2025. The performance marking a great improvement from a loss of 562.9 million shillings posted in the previous year. According to the firm, in its audited performance, the result was boosted by the coffee business, which made up for the challenges faced by the avocado business in what the company has termed as a challenging year globally and domestically. Jimmy Bogo has the details.
Of their coffee business, which posted its highest ever profits despite a drop in production volume. This comes from the price realization at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, where a kilo of coffee for the year ending September 30th, 2025, agricultural farm Sassini saw its fortunes change, bouncing back from a net loss of over 500 million shillings to post a 188.01 million shillings net earnings for the full year. According to the firm, the performance was largely boosted by the fortunes of their coffee business, which posted its highest ever profits despite a drop in production volume. This comes from the price realization at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, where a kilo of coffee averaged $6.19 or an equivalent of 798.51 shillings, a significant increase from an average of $4.65 per kilo or an equivalent of 599.85 shillings in 2024. In the year under review, Sassini saw its turnover increase by 22% to 8.44 billion shillings, a notable increase from the 6.89 billion shillings recorded in 2024. This leading to an operating profit of 35.5 million shillings after recovering from a 374.9 million shillings loss in 2024. Despite the positive stride, the company was forced to contend with economic pressures and logistics costs, which pushed their cost of sales up by 17.9% to 7.43 billion shillings. Sasini now maintains that its liquidity position remains stable, with the firm closing the year with 665.05 million shillings in cash deposits, allocating funds to infrastructure bond and fixed deposits. For the year ending September 2025, the shareholders of the company will not be receiving any dividend. However, the firm still remains bullish that 2026 will see better postings, particularly with the resurgence of their tea business focusing on premium quality. Jamie Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, Kenya's digital content industry is fast emerging as a major economic driver, now valued at an estimated 1.27 trillion shillings. This is according to recent sector research by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics and industry partners. Experts reckon that the creative economy is creating thousands of jobs, opening new income streams, and positioning Kenya as a regional hub for digital entrepreneurship. Industry analysts also say that the growth reflects a maturing digital ecosystem supported by improved internet access, mobile technology, and a young tech-savvy population. As creators monetize skills in storytelling, education, entertainment, and advocacy, the sector is contributing significantly to GDP while offering alternative employment for the youth. Now, the government has unveiled a plan to revive Kenya's cashew nut industry, saying that the sector could create up to 350,000 jobs and inject more than 30 billion shillings into the economy. The state notes that the low production has hurt coastal livelihoods despite strong global demand, with the government now rolling out improved cashew varieties to boost output. Kenya produces about 13,000 tons of cashew nuts annually against a processing capacity of 45,000 tons.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Emmanuel Ndungo. Let's get into the sports news. KCB RFC's quest to reclaim the Kenya Cup Rugby League is right on track after winning their first match of the year by thrashing host Nakuru RFC 43-19 at the Nakuru Athletic Club. The hosts took an early lead via a Javans Omondi penalty, but the Bankers responded immediately with a converted try to lead 7-3. A penalty by Levis Amunga and 2 tries from Bramwell Kilwake and John Aswani gave KCB a 19-12 lead at half-time. In the second half, KCB went on the rampage, scoring 4 more tries for the comfortable victory. The winners were without Samuel Asati, George Oro, Festus Shiasi, Floyd Wabwire and Vincent Onyala, who are training with the national Sevens rugby team Shujaa.
Level of sharpness was a little bit down. Boys coming back from the holidays, the effects could be seen from the game, so it's a matter of just trying to push them to get them fitter, for game ready, and to be able to just get to where they were before we went for the holidays. So the effect was seen today. I think we'll just get better by every game as we play. So.
The Kenya team to the upcoming World Mountain and Trail Running Championship will be selected during the 5th edition of the Bangetuni Mountain Run on the 17th of January. The running event, part of the 2026 edition of the Magical Kenya Mountain and Trail Series, was launched today in Nairobi. The run will co-headline the first leg of the series alongside the Taptengale Cultural Festival and Trails Expedition. The 3-day event is set for January the 15th to the 18th in Nandi County and is expected to draw thousands of enthusiasts.
Culture is in the Constitution of Kenya, Article 11, and the culture forms a bedrock of the nation of Kenya, because culture is about our way of life. It is about who we are as a people, what we eat, how we carry ourselves, how we relate with other people, what we teach our children is all enshrined in the Constitution under Article 11.
Tourism value chain benefits both the top of the pyramid as the consumers of the tourism experiences and the bottom of the pyramid who are key players in supplying the tourism value chain. But the Magical Kenya Trade Series takes the experiences down to the grassroots and gives us an opportunity to stimulate consumption.
More sports. Barely a year after taking over the reins at the Football Kenya Federation offices, wrangles are already tarnishing the federation's image, with the current one being between FKF President Hussein Mohamed and the Secretary General Harold Ndege. Lukman Mahmood has the details.
Well, Kenya Federation President Hussein Mohamed had called for a National Executive Committee meeting for the 15th of January with the main agenda to discuss the General Secretary's position. Harold Ndege, a former Tusker and Harambee Stars player, obtained a court order restraining the National Executive Committee from discussing the matter until the case is heard.
That is why I'm surprised that we have reached at that level, because the federation has its own internal mechanisms of solving, problems that emanate either through, the members or even amongst the officials themselves. We have, for instance, the disciplinary committee, we have the appeals committee.
The president should have taken the internal problem-solving mechanism to sort out this matter, because the Constitution says that if there are any issues, they need to deal with them internally.
Article 41 of the Kenya Football Federation Constitution outlined the procedure for the removal of an elected official. Key aspects of Article 41 include a proposal for removal must be initiated either by the National Executive Committee or by at least 1/3 of the FKF members. The NEC is required to vote on the motion. A 2/3 majority vote is necessary for the removal to pass. The official facing dismissal has the explicit right to defend themselves before any final decision is made.
And in the event that there are violations, I believe it is also upon the president, who also does not have the authority to employ. He can only recommend. Yeah? So authority to employ rests with the National Executive Committee. And I believe, therefore, that in an event that there is probably gross misconduct, then the first port of call should be the National Executive Committee, where the person in this particular aspect, the General Secretary, is supposed to appear.
The stakeholders are now saying the infight at Kandanda House will hinder the progress of the beautiful game in the country.
You cannot, as a president, work even a single day without, talking to your Secretary General, because there are myriads of issues that come up every day.
They need to start preparation of AFCON in good time. These wrangles are going to their side shows. They need to now concentrate, because for the first time Kenya is doing a pamoja bid for AFCON, which is Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania.
After the order blocking the meeting from discussing the General Secretary, will FKF go ahead with the meetings? What are the next steps on the matter? There is still no communication from FKF on SEM. Lukman Mahmood, Citizen TV.
Welcome back to the program. We just have some breaking news to give to you that was coming out just in the last few hours of Xabi Alonso and Real Madrid parting ways just one day after Real Madrid lost to Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup. He'll be replaced by Alvaro Arbeloa, who was the B-team coach over there at Real Madrid and previously in the academy, a former Liverpool and Real Madrid teammate of Xabi Alonso. So
no way. Is that because of the dismal performance lately or just sour losers?
So there are only 4 points of Barcelona in the league at the moment in the Spanish top flight.
Yeah.
But not quite where Real Madrid, such a big club, want to be with the lack of silverware as well. So unfortunately they'll have to part ways. That will bring chatter for maybe Alonso to go to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Because Liverpool have been struggling in the Premier League at the moment. So we'll just have to see what goes on that side.
We'll see how that works out.
Exactly. But earlier on in the bulletin, we were talking about some students who were to get some support. Any updates on that?
Great, you brought that up, Emmanuel. There's quite overwhelming support, actually. Governor Johnson Sakaja mentioned that they should go to City Hall tomorrow, all the three of them, Nicholas Otieno, Moses Njiru, and Ruth Akiru. We also have the CS, Kipchumba Murkomen, who was with us earlier on. He said that he's willing to support. Just the latest update is on His Excellency George Natembeya, the governor for Trans Nzoia, is also willing to support. He says he's secured support already, scholarship. Guru Narendra Raval, Devki Ona is also saying he's going to support. Mr. Emmanuel Atamba and Edna Kangogo are also willing to support. So it's overwhelming support for the three, and it's a great way of ending the bulletin. So we'll keep an eye on that, make sure they get to school as soon as tomorrow, if it's possible. Yeah.
Excellent. That's very good news to close on.
Brilliant. That's where we leave it for now. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for everyone who offered the support. We deeply appreciate it here. We know there are quite a number of people who require the support, but you showing up for these three who we featured today, we can only say thank you and God bless. Good night.
Good night.